we've made it. We've come out the other side of some very meaty topics this month, and we are now in the palate cleansing, uh, flesh Elysian plain before us that it is the Muppet of the month, and
Yes.
this month. I mean, you have a slightly more serious one to pick out,
Oh, I
but
think it's very, I think it's, I mean, it is serious, but it's also really funny.
well, yes, that's the thing. So I have something that's a bit zesty, a bit like a lime, like a key lime pie, and we'll follow it up with a nice sticky toffee pudding. So the key lime pie that I'm suggesting as a Muppet of the Month this month is uh, a headline from iflscience.com. Egypt responds to Elon Musk's suggestion that the pyramids were built by aliens. On the 31st of July, just getting in at the end of the month, Elon
God.
Musk, because he wanted to be featured in this segment. He
Yeah.
tweeted at 5:14 a.m. Oddly enough, although who knows where he was when what time zone he was in. Aliens built the pyramids, obviously, and that led to let's see, 86,000. 800 retweets and comments, and 544,800 likes on Twitter. And then also eventually led to the country of Egypt itself to respond. Now, it is Muppetry in so much as Elon has a heck of a platform. And he did go on to say, "Oh, I was joking. It was a joke." After lots of this had blown up in his face, he also recently, notably, I think it's mentioned in this article, back in April, I think, tweeted about the coronavirus, saying, "Why is everyone panicking about the coronavirus? It's going to go away by the end of the month," and it didn't. Obviously, the US is only trending upwards. So he has a history of tweeting, regretting those tweets, and sometimes massively damaging his own company and wealth because of his tweeting. So he is a muppet in that sense. But what do you make of this statement? Because well, what do you make of it? I'll come back in on it in a sec. What do you think? What do you make of it?
E- Look, Elon Musk is a master self-publicist, which
Mm,
is probably one of the reasons he's rich as he is.
mm,
He's created this vision of himself as this sort of um, the man who can be our stepping stone into the future.
mm,
With I mean, just a couple of days ago, the SpaceX private SpaceX crew delivery vehicle splashed down with the astronauts on the ISS. First, start to finish commercial space flight delivering astronauts that the Americans have mounted.
mm.
It's a brilliant engineering feat. But the point is, it's been done by his engineers. It's not been done by him.
No.
He's funded it.
Mm,
He's the front. All he is the front man.
mm.
He's the monkey. The organ grinders are back there with the CAD systems and the spreadsheets and the whatever.
Well,
Um,
didn't you come up with an interesting analogy when we were discussing this for the agenda, in the form of Thomas Edison?
well, yeah, but when we were discussing this, I was suggesting that in the same way that Edison um, funded and paid for engineers and technicians to create all the technologies that he's associated with and do the R&D work.
Mm,
And he was the front man for that. So it's a tradition in high end R&D.
mm,
This is how it works. Somebody might have an idea, and somebody might have the money, and somebody might have an idea and the money, but if they're not a trained engineer, they can't put it into practice.
mm.
And so they bring in people that can, and that's how I mean, we have an ongoing argument in my family because my daughter, who's 20, thinks Elon Musk is this absolutely wonderful visionary, and I won't hear anything said against him. For people of her generation, he is this incredible future that's being promised.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm old and cynical and say actually what goes around comes around, and he's we're back in the same position with the big tech companies as maybe we were with the big oil companies and the Carnegies and so on of this world in the end of, in the Fords in the 19th century, early
Mm,
20th century.
mm,
And in fact, it's interesting that there were hearings in the states, Senate hearings in the states just last week, I think it was, where they were talking about the problems of big tech and should big tech be broken up because
mm,
it's actually damaging.
mm.
In
Well,
the same way that in the same way that the big the cartels were broken up in the 19th century.
yeah, well, and also I suppose there's the 1980s and 1990s equivalents in the form of IBM, Apple, Microsoft.
Mm, yes.
Some of which have been more successfully diversified and broken up than others. I think
Mm,
was it the Xerox company was one of these companies that at one point was looking
mm,
as like it was going to own the world,
yes.
and various laws got in its way. Steve Jobs is another one of these characters who
Mm,
brings together other people and is very good at selling it. But also
mm,
Steve Jobs, to his credit, had a background in building computers. He was fundamentally involved in the
yeah.
building of the Apple II, I believe, and also
Mm,
was a programmer himself, and so on and so forth. Also has connections to things like Disney Pixar. There are analogies, and there are also missteps in, I guess, in this whole
mm,
world of
yeah.
trying to understand Elon Musk. But I think more broadly in terms of how this intersects with our interests, with archaeology and history.
Mm,
I know an awful lot of people on Twitter who got very, 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 very angry very, 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 very quickly about this. There are people whose Twitter names, Archaeosoup is Archaeosoup Towers. Someone else's, is something along the lines of, stop ancient aliens now, ban ancient aliens or whatever.
oh yeah.
Their whole Twitter existence is against this notion, and I think quite rightly, in so much as you see in threads very succinct summaries, punchy summaries along the lines of
Mm,
just because European people or white people didn't build it doesn't mean aliens did. And this is one of the
yeah.
things that obviously you and I have talked about in the past, where Ancient Aliens essentially pushes this twisted view of the ancient world that people were
Well,
incapable
let's not
of
beat about the bush. It's racist.
well, no, well, it is racist, but it's also
It's racist and supremacist.
yeah,
It's
well, in that sense, it's racist, but it's also modern Western versus the rest of the ancient world. It's also if we can't
mm,
do it now, they couldn't have done it then, no matter who they
yeah.
were. And the thing is the same. The same applies to Stonehenge. Yes, in that sense, someone might say that's not racist. Clearly, it was British people who built Stonehenge. Okay, right. If you don't want to, if you know, if, but the point is, you're still denying that humans in the past had the technological skills. Now, obviously, as we've talked about in a previous segment this month, it's been shown how now the sarsen stones were sourced and how far they had to be brought to bring to Stonehenge, which makes it actually within the bounds of a very achievable human endeavour. It's no longer
And 2,500 years before England was the thing.
well, yes, before England was a thing, yes, precisely. But the thing is, in that sense, it's no longer floating out there as this. Oh, how was Stonehenge built? It's becoming
Yeah.
ever. The more we understand the monument, the closer we get to understanding what was done and how it was achieved. But in the case of the pyramids, though, Elon Musk, for example, was invited by was it the culture minister? Um, Egypt's Minister of International Cooperation, sorry, to research a little bit more about the tombs, in particular, of the pyramid builders that are known about. There are villages that supported the communities who built the pyramids. There are
Yeah. We know how much beer and onions they were paid in. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and also the fact that they weren't slaves. Yeah, they were paid. This
Indeed.
was essentially a
That
civil
exactly.
engineering
Yeah.
project
Absolutely.
in the ancient world. And so to a certain extent, I feel as though this should kind of go without saying. But this is also where in this act of muppetry we come up against something that actually we've also talked about in a previous segment this month, but also you and I keep on coming back to at the moment. And that is the extent to which archaeologists can move that public knowledge needle on something, and the extent to which, in your words, Mr. Brockman, you just need to put up and shut up. Oh, get on with it, kind of thing. Just get on with it. So what if people think Stonehenge was built by aliens? Deal with it. It's a
Look,
gateway into learning about the past. Now the thing is, therefore, and I'm inviting you in that sense to clarify here. Where do you think the line is in between accepting pseudo-historical tendencies, for example, surrounding Stonehenge, and full-on propagating essentially racist or certainly ahistorical myths about the building of places like the pyramids?
right. Okay.
I know that's a biggie to put
Um,
on you in this segment. I'm sorry.
no, 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 no.
I promised you key
Absolutely.
lime pie, and I'm making you
Yeah, I know we do.
eat some
Yeah,
porridge.
absolutely. No, we are talking about Muppet of the Month, so
Hmm.
this is meant to be the light one. No, look. I used to be um, straight down the line. We need to confront this stuff.
Hmm.
But since doing the research on the psychology of belief for the
Mm.
Burma Spitfires project and the book, um, I've come round to thinking that. I'll give you an example. Take another myth that's propagated on the net and on Twitter a lot, which is that the hunting Hitler myth, that Hitler didn't die in Berlin in 1945, but in fact escaped to live in South America and had children and so on. There is absolutely no credible evidence whatsoever that that happened.
Mm.
And there's a guy called Luke Daly Groves who has written a PhD in a book saying exactly that. And whenever anybody pops up on the net saying, "Oh, I've watched Hunting Hitler. It's really convincing. Hitler didn't die in 1945. He went to Argentina," and Luke comes up and says, "No, Hunting Hitler's a lie. There's, how many qualified historians have endorsed this theory? None. Da da da, and so on. And it's a crusade, and all credit to him for doing it. But actually, if you look at the psychology of this, there's a percentage of people who, once they have a belief installed in themselves, will view any attempt to change that belief as proof of the conspiracy that they believe in.
Mm.
It's a circular piece of psychology which you can't break without really detailed intervention. And is it worth it? Where I would say, though, that so in a sense, these are cultural phenomenon. I think we just have to accept them for what they are. Yes, make sure that the historical truth, if you want to call it that, is out there.
The historical
But
truth is out there. That's a poster, isn't it?
we've heard that somewhere.
Sorry, go on.
Does that make which one of us? Yeah, but which one of us is Mulder and which one of us is Scully?
Oh, I'll be Scully. It's fine. I'm happy with that. I can live with it.
No, I mean, yeah,
Will they? Won't they? Sorry.
yeah, exactly. No, I think we have to enjoy these things to a certain extent as cultural phenomena, and we did that quite shamelessly with the Burma book. We were having fun. We were having fun with it. We weren't saying, "God, this is a crime against history." We were saying, actually, history is being distorted by this. So there's actually a far more interesting story if you look at the genuine documents. But we're going to take this. This happened. People believe these things, and some people can be in a psychological place where the belief is reinforced by that belief being attacked. But I think where I draw the line, though, is when it comes to the politicized misrepresentations of people like Anders Breivik and the New Zealand murderer in Christchurch, who cite historical evidence, in their view, for deeply damaging views effectively that in the worst cases can end up having people killed. And that, I think, historians and archaeologists, we have to fight that. But if somebody believes ancient aliens, yes, it can be a great gateway drug, but lots of people smoke dope, relatively fewer go on to the to take heroin.
Mm.
And it's the ones that who take the historical heroin that we need to worry about, not the ones who are just smoking the odd joint of ancient aliens.
Okay, interesting, interesting. I know that there'll be people out there who immediately, utterly disagree with that, but I'm not. I don't feel the need to be their devil's advocate. I'm
We can't we,
happy to leave it
we
there.
can't deal with all of them,
No, yeah, well, yeah, yeah,
and try and sort out the planning system, and try and sort out misrepresentations of Black history.
yeah,
Choose your battles.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So, what's your Muppet of the month? Since we
My,
went into an unusually, deep place with the Muppet just now, what's yours?
mine's a really quick one,
Okay,
and it falls into you should have known better Muppetry.
okay.
This is the American Anthropological Association,
Mm.
who towards the end of July, put out a tweet, which I have to say was fairly rapidly taken down. So thoroughly was it owned by the Anthropological and Archaeological
Although
Twitter.
you've been able to find
Yeah.
it via the Wayback Machine.
Oh, shh! Don't tell people about the Wayback Machine.
Okay,
No.
I don't know what to do.
Shh.
Okay, I'll be quiet. What happened?
What happened? The American Anthropological Association put out a tweet, which was very simple. It said, archaeologists and anthropologists have been trying to figure out what happened to the Maya for 100 years.
Mm.
To which the immediate reply was, well, why not try asking the people watching, the archaeologists and anthropologists who are actually there with a Mayan culture speaking Mayan?
You may want to ask them. Sorry.
Exactly. It was a piece of inadvertent colonialist prejudice,
Mm.
and cultural assumption. Now, all they needed to do was to make that quote, that tweet acceptable, was talk about insert the word cities after Maya,
Yeah, yeah. The
and it
urban
would have been
centers. Yeah.
fine.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the urban culture of the Maya is a long-standing archaeological
Yeah.
study, and a long-standing archaeological, why it actually ended when it did is a long-standing archaeological discussion. I won't say mystery. People in archaeology these days don't like the idea of mysteries. There are just hypotheses which
Oh,
require
I don't
more
know. I don't know.
evidence.
So there are hypotheses. What? Sorry.
Which require more evidence to elucidate.
Okay, okay.
But
Well, I was going to say you clearly don't read the Daily Express. Goodness me, they've moved into the.
look, mate, I've had my book reviewed in the Daily Express,
Oh,
so
there you go. Right. Oh,
I'm not going off
wow.
the Daily Express.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, in that case, you'll be familiar with
Hang
the
on,
archaeologists of.
I was going to say, you're telling me the Daily Express misrepresents archaeology in stories?
Yes. Archaeologists baffled, archaeologists amazed, stunned, shocked. What else have we come across? Basically, we play archaeology bingo over on the Facebook page when it comes to Daily Express
Oh,
headlines. Um, yeah, it's a
much more fun if
fantastic.
it's a drinking game.
If it's a drinking game, yeah, yeah, a shot for every extraordinary headline. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you wouldn't make it out
Take
alive.
two shots for every mystery. Yeah.
But actually, and the thing is, we know what they were getting at, and this is what makes it
Fines every
Muppetry.
time they mention Noah's Ark.
Back to the American Anthropological Association. We know that what they were getting at. They were,
You
um,
know what they were getting.
yeah, they were getting at what is the process of the decline of those urban states, places,
City
cities,
state.
and
Yeah.
states, to the extent that Hernando Cortez walked past them without knowing they were there on his way to meet the Aztecs. Um,
Yeah.
is a curio. It's a curious thing. How did such a big, and the reason also it's so interesting is that it speaks to the end of civilizations, which for the past 50 years really in the West in particular we felt as though we're on the cusp of the end of something, and so
It's really
that's why it plays
interesting
into a
if
lot
you
of these
look at the.
psychological things. So go on.
Absolutely, no. I think if you look at the imagery of these, you get them on the digital TV channels a lot. How after humans type documentaries about what would happen if we were suddenly taken out of the urban
Mm,
equation,
mm.
and what would happen to, and the image of the city being overtaken by ivy and vines
Like
and so on.
concrete
It's
crumbling
straight
and
out of it's straight out of those, monuments in Central America. The urban site, the pyramid that is completely overgrown and hidden in the jungle,
mm, mm,
until it's cut away by the explorer.
mm, mm.
And so yeah, it's very much part of, and obviously again into popular culture through being used as a location in Star Wars.
Yes.
um
Yeah, yes, yes.
again, the image of the pyramid poking out of the jungle and so on, we see it
Yeah. Mm.
in episode
Yavin 4, I
yeah,
think.
the jungle yeah, planet
Yeah.
Yavin, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
Or the
So
moon. I think it was a moon base. Anyway, sorry.
Moon of Yavin, yeah, Moon of Yavin, sorry, yeah, that's right,
But
yeah.
but then nonetheless, so yeah, Muppetry in so much as we know where they were getting at, but they really should have known better, and really they walked straight into an anthropological, well,
Pylon,
not even a trap, a pylon. Yeah, it's not as though anyone
yeah,
laid this trap for them, but
yeah,
yes, there are still Mayan people in those areas in the Yucatan Peninsula. You can
yeah,
go and talk to them. It's not.
exactly. Exactly. And then, but I think just to finish, just very quick, I mean, if there's a lesson in that particular piece of Muppetry, it's if you're going to tweet something, read it at least twice before you press send.
Yeah, do you know I should do that? My spelling's awful. It's just atrocious. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
me
agree.
too.